The Veri-CHIP company created an application called VeriGuard, a security system designed to grant entry to secured locations and for companies who want to monitor their employees. The employee will first be injected with the Veri-CHIP, and to gain entry they'll have to walk past a wall-mounted scanner or walk through a portal scanner in a doorway. The chip is then scanned and the information sent to a controller module which unlocks the door. The poster child for this program was a company called City Watchers, which had garnered a lot of attention by appearing on numerous television shows.
An Ohio company has become the first American firm to implant silicon chips in employees to track their every move. Don't be surprised if your company asks to tag you in the years ahead.
Sean Darks is the CEO of CityWatcher.com, a small company in Cincinnati that's the first U.S. business to use chip implants in its employees.
What you're looking at here is recorded footage back in August of a number of drug deals.
CityWatcher provides video surveillance for clients and for the police. And the video that it collects, like this drug bust, is the company's biggest asset. And they say they need to keep it under more than just lock and key.
City Watchers has since gone out of business, and Veri-CHIP has stopped offering the VeriGuard system due to lack of willing participants. It's shifting most of its attention from private companies to focus on lobbying contracts from governments around the globe. Veri-CHIP has had much of its success with the Mexican government, who has embraced the technology for security clearance and other applications. The Attorney General of Mexico and almost 200 of his employees were implanted with the Veri-CHIP to gain entry into buildings. And now, in response to the flux of illegal immigrants flowing into Mexico, their government plans to implant microchips in illegal immigrants to identify them.
Finally from us this evening, technology on the cutting edge. We were interested today to hear that more than 100 law enforcement officials in Mexico are having microchips implanted in their arms. The chips allow a person to be scanned, sort of like a cereal box at the supermarket checkout. In Mexico, this will be one more tool in the fight against crime.
Now, Mexico's Attorney General and 160 of his deputies have had microchips implanted in their arms to control access to the country's new criminal investigation center. It is to provide access, said the Attorney General, to the right people in exclusive areas where there is valuable, sensitive information. The microchip, the size of a grain of rice, is injected under the skin and gives off a low-frequency radio wave. A scanner reads each chip's identification number to verify an official's security clearance.
The microchip is tamper-proof, it's secure, no one can take your microchip and use it to their advantage to gain access to your facility.
The government of Mexico is highly critical of U.S. immigration policy, but it's taking extraordinary measures when it comes to its own immigration crisis. Mexico is taking drastic measures to control illegal immigration across its southern border. Now, Mexico will reportedly use an electronic chip to curb illegal immigration from Guatemala and Belize. The biochip implant will replace the so-called local pass currently being used to enter the country. In 2006, Mexico arrested 200,000 people trying to enter their country illegally.
When this takes effect, it will basically force thousands of desperate, impoverished Central Americans to be microchipped. The Mexican government is not the only ones embracing implantable microchips for security and immigration. The U.S. government is steadily turning the country into a microchip control grid as well with its RFID programs, and Veri-CHIP admits it's been lobbying the U.S. government to start voluntarily microchipping immigrants entering the country as an alternative to the RFID embedded documents.
As a result of our efforts in Washington to push that information technology and healthcare push, Homeland Security has become interested in our technology on the FEMA side, and we used it in the Katrina aftermath, and now on the immigration or border patrol side as well. Because what the government is looking to do through the new bill is to create a worker visa program. People coming across the border on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis.
Guest workers.
Guest workers legitimately coming across the border. And many legislators are now out there saying that if this bill passes, we need a tamper-proof visa. Well, no one has defined exactly what a tamper-proof visa is, whether it's paper, whether it's biometrics, or whether it's RFID technology, or the Veri-CHIP technology. And obviously one of the viable alternatives or choices that we could use for a tamper-proof visa program would be the Veri-CHIP technology.
So the conditions for being a guest worker in this country would be you have to have this chip in your arm?
No, it would be one of several choices. And obviously the key here is a choice. Having a voluntary chip put inside your body, similar to what we do in the medical application, because there are choices on the medical application as well. You can hold your medical records on a card, you can hold it on a key fob, or you can have it in a Veri-CHIP. However, Our argument is that the only tamper-proof and secure one for the benefit of the patient or for the benefit of the immigrant or the employer who would actually use these scanners to identify and register the immigrant worker in a database would be the Veri-CHIP technology.
You can imagine the outcry.
Sure.
I mean, not just in this country, but around the world. The U.S. would we be the only country that would require our immigrants to have one of these placed in their bodies?
Well, again, we wouldn't require them to have it.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that people are coming into this country, 12 million illegal immigrants here now. People are coming into this country. They're coming here to work. They're coming here on a voluntary basis to work. We are now allowing them to come here to work, and there should be several technology solutions to allow them into the country.
How do you make sure it's a voluntary program? Because you just said yourself that the only way to guarantee that it's foolproof is if it's in your body.
It's got to be legislation. It's got to be.
How do you guarantee that the legislation keeps that being a voluntary program?
There would be 2 or 3 alternatives, Becky, and that's what's being discussed. The 2 or 3 alternatives being discussed for a tamper-proof visa are a card. You know, we all have heard about passports with RFID technology, or a microchip, or something else in the form of paper, which we know isn't the solution today in the technology age. So this is one solution that could be chosen so that you don't have to make sure you have your wallet, so that you don't have to make sure that if you didn't bring your wallet, you're not going to get to work that day and the employer is going to have a problem.
Veri-CHIP is not just working with the U.S. to track and ID immigrants. They have turned their attention to mandatory chipping of U.S. military personnel. Veri-CHIP admits meetings have taken place with key heads in the military and defense contractors to try and replace the old dog tags with the Veri-CHIP, as well as use them for tracking and high-security clearances.
These Defense Department contractors in Virginia hope they'll be the first. They foresee implanting them in our military to help locate next of kin or to gain access to top-secret information.
The military is already using some type of GPS on some soldiers, but what more can be done? CNN's Brian Todd takes a look in this week's Tech Effect.
A relentless search for 2 missing American soldiers in Iraq. Could tracking devices placed on their bodies have helped to find them faster?
That kind of technology does exist. Obviously, it's not down to fine microchips at this point, but it does exist and is used in this theater by certain forces when they're conducting the specialized type missions.
Because of the high risk and sensitivity of those missions, we cannot say what units the troops who carry tracking devices are assigned to, what the equipment looks like, or where it's placed on the body. U.S. military officials say soldiers and Marines in most regular combat units in Iraq, like the Missing Soldiers Division, are not outfitted with tracking devices. One reason, the high cost. Another, the danger involved if a soldier carrying one gets captured.
That provides certain options for the adversary. If he knows that this is a tracker and somebody's going to come back and get this tracker because they think it's associated with a human being, they have the ability to set up an ambush for whatever unit's going to come back and try and find this unit.
One option, placing a tracking microchip under a service member's skin. Former U.S. Special Operations officers tell us they believe that's being developed. Current military officials won't comment on that.
There's been a few trial runs to chip police officers here in the U.S. This has not been talked much about, but a few stations did run segments with a chipped officer saying the Veri-CHIP saved his life.
Some law enforcement units back home have experimented with chips that give physical data about officers.
A New Jersey policeman says he's alive today thanks to a medical ID chip implanted in his arm.
Hurt on the job, Police Sergeant William Koretsky is the first patient to ever put the chip to the test. A pass of the scanner over his implant, and his medical history and contact information quickly popped up on a computer screen.
I couldn't answer all their questions fully. I just couldn't do it. But they had all the information right there in front of them.
In an effort to increase security at high-risk locations, Congress has been kicking around the idea of chipping their workers. Here in San Antonio, our international airport has gotten word that there will be a host of new security measures for the entire working staff at the airport, from security, pilots, and even workers at Starbucks and McDonald's.
Metal detectors, liquid bans, random bag checks. As passengers, we've come to expect tight security measures associated with flying. Soon those measures will extend beyond those just taking off to include those who never leave the airport. San Antonio international officials tell KENS 5 Congress is putting into motion measures that will ensure airport employees are subject to stricter security checks. Selena Hernandez joins us live from the airport with a KENS 5 exclusive. Selena?
Chris, right now, all airport employees must pass a police and FBI background check. Soon, those checks could include something a little more intrusive.
at San Antonio International Airport. Officials here await the arrival of stricter security measures. Not for passengers, rather airport employees.
This would be a huge step as far as the amount of background checks that we're going through. This would kind of open it up to a lot of different areas that we don't currently have in place.
Members of Congress are currently debating how to keep closer tabs on those who have access to secured areas, meaning everyone from restaurant employees to airline mechanics could soon be subjected to more rigorous background checks.
We're just kind of waiting to see what they come up with. It's fairly early in the process.
Under discussion, a check of an employee's credit history, search of their bags and property before entering secured areas, and perhaps the most extreme measure, the use of biometric readers for fingerprints and eyes, even possibly a chip implant.